Often hailed as the greatest film never to win Best Picture, The Shawshank Redemption began as a box office disappointment but achieved lasting fame through word of mouth and frequent airings on cable TV. It's a film with such rich, layered storytelling that fans continue to find new details even after multiple viewings. For millions, this story of hope, friendship, and redemption stands as one of cinema's finest. But beneath its well-known surface lies a trove of hidden truths that even its most devoted followers may have missed. Today, we explore some of Shawshank's best-kept secrets, insights revealed by the very people who brought the story to life. These include subtle symbols, behind-the-scenes tensions, and layered meanings that reshape how we understand Andy Dufresne's journey. This isn't just trivia, it's a deeper look at the film through the eyes of its cast and crew. From Morgan Freeman's reflections on playing Red, to Tim Robbins' unique approach to embodying Andy, to deleted scenes that could have altered the film's message entirely, this is the story you never knew. And by the end, you'll see The Shawshank Redemption in a whole new light. Before diving into the cast's insights, it's important to understand just how close the film came to never being made. When Frank Darabont approached Stephen King about adapting his novella Rita Hayworth in Shawshank Redemption, King had his doubts. It wasn't about Darabont's ability, it was that the story felt too internal, too psychological to translate to the screen. Yet King agreed, selling the rights for just $1 as part of his Dollar Baby program, designed to give young filmmakers access to his shorter works. This symbolic gesture created a rare creative freedom on set. In a 25th anniversary interview, Tim Robbins explained that without the pressure of a blockbuster budget or constant studio oversight, Darabont had room to craft something personal. Morgan Freeman added that it was ironic how a movie that would later top IMDb's rankings was once treated like an afterthought by Columbia Pictures. That unconventional beginning mirrored the story itself, one of perseverance, quiet brilliance, and unexpected triumph, just like Andy Dufresne's own journey. One of the most defining choices for Shawshank's authenticity was filming at the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. This imposing prison had shut down just 4 years earlier due to its harsh conditions. According to the cast, filming there deeply influenced their performances. Clancy Brown, who portrayed the intimidating Captain Hadley, shared that entering those gates each morning felt heavy, like the suffering of past inmates lingered in the air. It wasn't something you had to act, he said. The prison itself became a character. Tim Robbins often sat alone in the small, 6-by-8-foot cells between takes, letting the oppressive atmosphere affect him. He described how the sensation of the door closing triggered a primal response, real panic, not performance. Interestingly, many of the extras were actual former inmates of that same prison. Director Frank Darabont wanted authentic expressions and reactions during yard and cafeteria scenes, so he cast men who had lived that reality. Their hardened faces weren't acting, they were remembering. This level of realism extended to set design too. The production team aged the prison walls differently for various time periods, gradually making them appear cleaner as the story moved into earlier decades, a detail most viewers miss. Freeman later said that this realism changed how he played Red. He wasn't pretending to be an inmate on a movie set, he felt like a man who had truly spent decades in that dark, crumbling place. There's a distinction, the characters within the characters. Many viewers don't realize that each main actor created detailed backstories for their roles, elements never spoken aloud in the film but deeply embedded in every expression and line delivery. Morgan Freeman, for instance, imagined a full criminal past for Red, far beyond the film's brief mention of a murder conviction. In Freeman's version, Red was once a powerful figure who ran numbers in the black community in the late 1930s or early 1940s. He was someone with status and control, who then lost everything. That fall from grace, Freeman believed, made Red an expert in getting things inside prison. He was always a fixer who knew the right people and how to make things happen. This imagined history gave Red a unique standing in Shawshank and explained why he immediately sensed something different in Andy Dufresne. When Red sees Andy, he sees someone who also lost everything. There's a quiet recognition. Tim Robbins approached Andy Dufresne with a different but equally creative method. He developed two versions of Andy, the cautious, detached man the inmates knew, and the real Andy, the one working tirelessly behind the scenes. Robbins revealed in a director's commentary that this dual identity shaped his performance in subtle ways. Publicly, he kept Andy stiff, with limited movement. But in private scenes, such as when Andy plays opera music over the loudspeakers, his posture and gestures became looser, more expressive. The contrast is so nuanced that audiences feel the difference more than they consciously see it. James Whitmore brought a personal layer to Brooks Hatlin, the elderly prison librarian who tragically takes his life after being released. Whitmore shared that he based Brooks on his own father, who experienced depression in later life. The touching scene where Brooks feeds birds wasn't originally in the script. Whitmore suggested it because his father used to do that after his mother passed away. That quiet act of feeding birds, steeped in loneliness, brought emotional depth to Brooks's short but powerful story arc. It's one of many examples where real-life memories help shape the film's emotional core, elevating it beyond a simple prison drama into something deeply human. The film is filled with symbolic details that often go unnoticed, even by longtime fans. Over the years, the cast has revealed insights that change how viewers interpret key scenes. Tim Robbins highlighted a recurring visual pattern: Andy is frequently framed through bars or behind objects, even outside his cell. Director Frank Darabont often positioned Andy behind stair railings or fences, subtly signaling that Andy feels trapped by his innocence, his past life, and his secret ambitions. This visual metaphor appears repeatedly but often escapes conscious notice. Once viewers are aware of it, it reshapes how they see Andy's isolation compared to the other inmates who have come to terms with their imprisonment. Morgan Freeman shed light on the meaning behind the rooftop tar scene, where the inmates enjoy cold beer under the sun. While it appears to be a brief escape from prison life, Freeman explained it's much more. That moment marks the beginning of Andy's new role, helping guards with finances, crafting the identity that will one day enable his escape. While others see a kind gesture, Red recognizes that Andy is carefully laying the foundation for something greater. The fact that the scene takes place on the rooftop, literally above the prison, subtly hints at Andy's future flight to freedom. Even the beer, which seems like a small reward, is part of a plan years in the making. The film's most famous line, "Get busy living or get busy dying," carries far more weight than most realize. It isn't just memorable, it's the film's emotional anchor. Actor Clancy Brown revealed that director Frank Darabont had the line written on a wall in the production office before filming began. Darabont instructed the team that every moment in the film should reflect that central idea: every character is making a choice between life and death, hope and surrender. With that perspective, scenes take on new meaning. When Andy plays opera through the speakers, he's choosing life. When Brooks carves his name before ending his life, he's choosing death. The entire film becomes a meditation on that essential human decision. Even the iconic posters in Andy's cell, Rita Hayworth, Marilyn Monroe, and Raquel Welch, hold deeper significance. While they're best known for concealing the escape tunnel, Tim Robbins explained they're more than that. These posters weren't just props or plot devices, they reflected changes in Andy, phases in his journey, and the evolving image he projected to the outside world. They serve as a reflection of Andy's journey. Each poster marks a chapter in his transformation. According to Robbins, Rita Hayworth symbolizes the 1940s and 50s, the period when Andy first arrives at Shawshank, a symbol of classic beauty from a more innocent age. Marilyn Monroe follows, representing the late 50s and early 60s, with a shift toward more complexity and sensuality. Finally, Raquel Welch in 1,000,000 years BC stands for something primal and elemental. She's literally portrayed as a cave woman. This progression reflects Andy stripping away layers of society, preparing to crawl through filth and emerge renewed. Director Frank Darabont confirmed this reading, saying the posters chart Andy's path to freedom. Rita is fully clothed, Marilyn shows more skin, and Raquel is nearly nude. It's a metaphor for Andy gradually shedding society's constraints as he readies himself for a new beginning. This carefully designed arc adds weight to the iconic moment when the poster flaps in the wind following Andy's escape. It's not only exposing the tunnel but also represents the final letting go of his old identity, the last barrier between captivity and liberation. Weather in the film is used as a subtle yet powerful narrative device. Morgan Freeman later pointed out how rain accompanies the darkest moments at Shawshank, during the sisters' first attack on Andy, the warden's suicide, and Tommy's murder. In contrast, Andy's escape unfolds during a thunderstorm, a natural spectacle that mirrors the intensity of his flight. Most strikingly, when Red finds Andy on a beach in Mexico, the sun shines brightly for the first time in the entire movie. Freeman noted that this final scene is the only one with truly beautiful weather. All other outdoor scenes are marked by rain, overcast skies, or dull lighting. The sun doesn't fully break through until the end, subtly influencing the emotional mood of the film. The prison world is steeped in gloom, while freedom is bathed in light, showing how the filmmakers used weather to silently support the emotional journey. The famous Get Busy Living scene, where Red decides to go to Mexico, is often seen as the emotional climax of the story. Yet, as Morgan Freeman revealed in a 2014 interview, this scene wasn't part of the original script. Late in production, director Frank Darabont felt something was missing. Although the film was essentially finished, the studio wanted to cut the reunion in Mexico, thinking it made the film too long. Darabont responded by adding the bus scene where Red makes his decision to follow Andy. This last-minute change gave the film a new emotional anchor. Without it, Red's arc would have ended with his release from prison, leaving his future uncertain and incomplete. Freeman explained that the film is just as much about Red's escape as Andy's, not from a physical prison, but from the mental and emotional cage he had built around himself. That added moment on the bus shows Red choosing hope after years of burying it. It reframes the entire narrative as a shared journey between two men discovering different paths to freedom. One of the most emotional threads in the film, the story of Brooks Hatlin, was also a late expansion. The elderly inmate who struggles to adapt to the outside world and eventually takes his own life had a much smaller role in Stephen King's original novella. James Whitmore, who portrayed Brooks, revealed that the character was initially little more than a footnote. But director Frank Darabont saw untapped depth in Brooks' story. Whitmore shared that it was Darabont's vision that turned Brooks into a symbol of institutionalization and emotional tragedy, showing how even freedom can be terrifying when you've spent a lifetime behind bars. He came to realize that Brooks symbolized all the men who had become so institutionalized that they couldn't survive life outside prison. The walls had become their home. Expanding Brooks's role deeply altered the emotional tone of the film. It raised the emotional stakes for Red's release and created a stark contrast to Andy's unwavering optimism. Without Brooks, the film's conclusion would carry far less weight, and Red's decision to choose a different path wouldn't feel nearly as powerful. Director Frank Darabont later shared that studio executives wanted to remove the Brooks storyline entirely, believing it slowed the pace. "I had to fight for Brooks," Darabont said. "I explained that if we don't show what happens to him, Red's journey means nothing. Brooks chose fear. Red chooses hope. One gives meaning to the other." That context adds a deeper layer of meaning to Brooks's carved message: Brooks was here. When Red later etches "So was Red" before heading to Mexico, he's not just leaving his mark, he's making a deliberate choice to reject Brooks's fate and write a new ending for himself. The warden, portrayed by Bob Gunton, was inspired by a real historical figure. Gunton revealed years after the film's release that his character, Warden Norton, was partially based on a 1950s prison official who forced inmates to renovate his own home and was eventually convicted. "Frank gave me newspaper articles about a warden from the Midwest," Gunton recalled. "This man pretended to be a moral Christian leader while abusing prisoners and stealing funds. His hypocrisy was astonishing." These real-life traits shaped the warden's on-screen persona. His use of scripture contrasted sharply with his cruelty, and his polished appearance masked deep corruption. This background sheds new light on his final act of suicide. When authorities close in, it's not just prison he dreads, but the shattering of his carefully crafted image of righteousness. Gunton explained, it's the collapse of his self-delusion that he can't handle. These character insights bring realism to what might otherwise seem like a one-dimensional villain. The Bible-quoting tyrant wasn't a fictional exaggeration, he was grounded in actual American penal history. The film's idea of redemption is much more layered than it first appears. While many assume the title refers to Andy's escape and justice being served, the cast has offered a richer interpretation. Tim Robbins said, "The title isn't only about Andy finding redemption through his escape, it's about restoring humanity in a place built to erase it. Andy brings hope and meaning to the prisoners. He revives the library, the rooftop, even his cell walls through his carvings. He improves Shawshank itself, even as he plots to leave it." This perspective elevates the story from a simple breakout narrative to a deeper reflection on preserving dignity under dehumanizing conditions. Morgan Freeman added his own view. Red's redemption isn't just about walking out of prison, it's about being honest with himself and the parole board. When Red finally says he doesn't care about their judgment, that's his breakthrough. After years of pretending and saying what they wanted to hear, he becomes his true self. This layered concept of redemption helps explain the film's enduring impact. It's not simply about escaping prison, it's about reclaiming the human spirit in all its struggles, whether it's confined by concrete walls, dishonesty, fear, or a lack of hope. Surprisingly, the film's celebrated ending almost didn't happen. The iconic scene where Andy and Red reunite on a beach, often cited as one of the most uplifting in cinema, was nearly cut. Director Frank Darabont revealed that the studio pushed hard to end the film with Red simply riding the bus to Mexico. Executives believed the reunion was unnecessary and that the film's length was already excessive. They proposed ending the story with Red hopeful but still uncertain. Darabont fought to keep the beach scene, explaining, "They thought ending on the bus was enough. But I insisted on that final moment because the story isn't just about having hope, it's about seeing hope fulfilled." Without showing the reunion, the film would have left audiences with the same uncertainty that haunted Red throughout his life. "I wanted to offer them closure." Tim Robbins shared an intriguing detail. The final scene was actually the very first one they filmed. Director Frank Darabont aimed to capture the genuine, slightly awkward tension of two longtime friends reuniting after a long separation, before Robbins and Morgan Freeman had built their on-screen rapport. That early take brought an honest, tentative feeling to the scene, making it emotionally resonant without becoming overly sentimental. The understated emotion works so well precisely because Robbins and Freeman hadn't yet developed the chemistry that would later define their prison scenes. Looking back, it's hard to believe that studio executives once considered cutting this moment. As Freeman pointed out, without the beach reunion, Shawshank would have felt like a film about the idea of hope, not the reality of it, and that would have been far less powerful. The music in Shawshank does much more than support the story, it tells it. Thomas Newman's score is nearly as iconic as the film itself, carefully designed to guide viewers through the emotional arc without them realizing it. Robbins explained that the early scenes in the prison are underscored by a cold, mechanical sound, which gradually warms into richer, more hopeful music. This slow transformation parallels Andy's journey from despair to optimism, subtly influencing the audience emotionally rather than intellectually. The music brings hope into the film as quietly and steadily as Andy chips away at his cell wall. One of the most striking musical moments appears during the Brooks Was Here sequence. The soft, melancholic music underscores the loneliness and fear the old man experiences, rather than forcing emotion on the viewer. As actor James Whitmore observed, the score doesn't manipulate your feelings, it reflects Brooks' deep confusion and sadness at facing freedom that feels like another form of imprisonment. Newman's masterful score was nominated for an Oscar, though it lost to Hans Zimmer's work on The Lion King. Many critics and scholars believe this was a major oversight, given the enduring emotional depth of Newman's composition. Shawshank's initial release wasn't promising. Competing with heavyweights like Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump, it earned only $16 million at the box office, well below its $25 million budget. By Hollywood standards, it was a flop. But then something remarkable happened. Morgan Freeman explained that the film gained a devoted audience through cable reruns and VHS rentals. Once networks like TNT began airing it regularly, people didn't just watch it, they watched it every time it aired. It became a kind of emotional refuge. This unexpected resurgence gave the movie a second life, turning it from a commercial disappointment into a beloved classic. By the late 1990s, strong video rental sales had made the film profitable, and it steadily grew into one of the most cherished movies ever made. Robbins remarked on the poetic irony. A film about long-term perseverance needed that same kind of endurance from the studio and its audience to earn recognition. Just like Andy chipped away at his prison wall for years, the movie slowly carved out a place in the hearts of viewers, one viewing, one recommendation at a time. By 2019, it had spent more than a decade near the top of IMDb's greatest films list, even surpassing classics like The Godfather and Citizen Kane. What began as a commercial failure became something much greater, a lasting piece of American culture. In an unexpected twist to its legacy, the Ohio State Reformatory, where the film was shot, has become a major tourist destination. Once a deteriorating and notorious prison, it now draws more than 100,000 visitors each year. It's a striking transformation. A place once marked by cruelty and neglect is now celebrated as the backdrop to a story about dignity, friendship, and the triumph of the human spirit. Tim Robbins noted that fans travel from all corners of the world to walk the halls Andy and Red once did on screen. Guests can see Andy's cell, explore the corridors, and even inspect the tunnel he used to escape, turning the site into a living monument to the power of story and hope. Once just a Hollywood film set, the prison has now become a permanent fixture, its original purpose nearly forgotten beneath its fame in cinema history. The community in Mansfield, Ohio, has fully embraced this transformation, establishing the Shawshank Trail, which guides visitors through more than a dozen filming locations. This initiative has had a significant economic impact, breathing new life into an area hit hard by industrial decline. The site's evolution from a place of punishment to one of pilgrimage adds a symbolic layer of redemption. What was once built to break spirits now honors a story about the resilience of the human soul. As The Shawshank Redemption nears its 30th anniversary, many wonder why this film continues to hold such emotional power, even as other critically acclaimed works fade into obscurity. Morgan Freeman captured it best, explaining that the film speaks to something universal, the feeling of being trapped by our circumstances, past mistakes, or regrets, and offers hope that we can free ourselves. Tim Robbins added that the film doesn't deliver a message through preaching. Instead, it allows Andy's story to show how vital and difficult hope truly is. That's why Red's line about hope being dangerous strikes such a deep chord. The film recognizes that hope is not simple, it's both terrifying and essential. By portraying hope as both a lifeline and a risk, the film rises above ordinary inspirational stories. It reflects the complexities of the human experience while affirming our ability to change, grow, and connect. Director Frank Darabont described the heart of Shawshank as something that cannot be stripped from us, our humanity, our friendships, and our search for meaning even in the darkest moments. As long as people feel confined by life's circumstances, this story will continue to resonate. In an age where much entertainment feels forgettable, Shawshank reminds us that the most meaningful stories are often the ones that take time to be truly appreciated. Like Andy himself, the film's greatness emerged gradually, one viewer at a time. The Shawshank Redemption reminds us of why we love films. It's more than entertainment, it's a reflection of our deepest fears and highest hopes. Insights from the cast and crew help us understand the care and artistry behind every element of the film. From the real prison used in production to the thoughtful character arcs, the subtle evolution of the score, and the use of visual symbolism, every detail was crafted with purpose. Yet the film never feels manufactured, it feels discovered, as though Darabont and his team unearthed a timeless truth rather than inventing it. This is likely why the film has stayed with audiences for nearly 30 years. It doesn't play like fiction, it feels like truth wrapped in narrative. As Andy tells Red, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. If these reflections inspire you, consider watching the film again with a new perspective. Look for the visual patterns, listen closely to the score's evolution, observe how the weather parallels the emotional arc, and consider how Brooks's story prepares us for Red's decision. Most of all, share the experience with someone who hasn't seen it yet. There's something powerful about watching someone encounter Shawshank for the first time. And if you found this analysis meaningful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel for more cinematic deep dives, hit the notification bell, and share your thoughts, especially the moment in Shawshank that moved you most.